Haha, AI better than you. I bet AI make better art than CG Week. Bruh, why bother? AI is more powerful.
Is it? Is it though? Has AI surpassed 3D artists, aka this 3D artist, CG Geek? Hey everyone, good to be back, Steve here. I've been a 3D artist for over 15 years now, and I've created many 3D worlds and scenes using the free open source software Blender. So today it's time to face off with some friendly competition against AI and put the question to rest. Can AI do it better? So I thought it'd be fun to create sort of an imaginary fantasy world and compare it with what AI will generate using the same sort of prompts to my finished art. Now typically I like to use some reference before creating a 3D art piece or world like this. But since we're going against AI, I'm unplugging the internet and going off my imagination for this piece. Will AI be superior and I end up losing my job? Quite possibly, guys. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it needs to be done. It needs to be seen. The world needs to know for once and for all. And I won't be completely empty-handed for this battle, as ROG has equipped me with their latest and greatest 2024 ROG Zephyrus G14 laptop as my weapon of choice. This slim, sleek aluminum portable powerhouse is an AI beast of its own, coming with AMD's Ryzen 9 CPU chips and NVIDIA's advanced RTX 4070 laptop GPU. This year's model features a larger trackpad and keycaps, perfect for creators like us, and more importantly, a bright 120Hz OLED panel supporting G-Sync and HDR with an AMD Ryzen 9 8945HS processor supporting Ryzen AI. Also perfect for when us creators need to break and want to bust out some gaming. Super stoked to be using this as my go-to laptop. It's thinner and more portable than previous laptops I've been using, while still feeling incredibly well built and packed with enough power and battery life to conquer all the 3D tasks I'll be throwing at it. Thanks to ROG for sponsoring this video, and check out their new ROG Zephyrus laptops with the first link in the video description. So with weapons on the table, let's jump into this competition with AI by firing up Blender.
May the best computer win.
Whoa, AI, is that you?
How about if I win, I get your YouTube channel?
Hey, oh, whoa, that hardly seems fair, as you have a lot going for you. I mean, you have decades of information to draw from, and millions of artists' art to reference from.
Sounds like you're making excuses.
Oh, no, I'm just a single guy, though, working
You're
by
single
myself.
cause no one wants you.
Hey, yo, whoa, hold on, AI, that's not very nice.
Even your mother didn't want you.
Okay, let's not bring my mom into this. Enough smack talk. Let's start blending. So for starters, I put together a few different color palettes that I thought would be cool color combinations for this fantasy world that I'll be creating. Then I hopped into Blender using Grease Pencil and their blank 2D canvas to start throwing some paint at the wall and kind of seeing what sticks. I really didn't have any clear vision for this world, so just using the fill tool and Grease Pencil, or just using the different colors from these palettes to throw shapes down on this basic canvas and come up with some different ideas. After going through 3 different color palettes and different compositions, I settled on these colors, kind of put together a fantasy zero gravity floating sort of world here that I thought had some potential. Of course, we had to throw a little dude in the world for that human aspect and add a little bit of sci-fi-ness as well with the spaceship. So next I wanted a way to sort of easily generate different terrain in Blender. So to do this, I turned to Blender's newest and coolest feature in the last few years, geometry nodes. Starting by using the default cube, because I need a little bit of geometry and nobody's nice to the default cube. Scaling it to a rectangle and moving it out of the way, then adding a basic plane to work on these geometry nodes through. Opening up a new window for geometry nodes and added distribute points on faces. This gives me random points to build geometry off of on this plane. Then I just grabbed my cube for the geometry and dragged it into my geometry nodes and added instances on points, using this geometry as the instance, of course. So here we're scattering a bunch of those rectangles, and all I had to do now was add some random values to control the rotation and the scale. You can see this gives you some sort of wacky geometry right off the bat, for maybe an abstract art sort of piece, but not what I was going for. So I toned back the randomness on the scale. Then to get the geometry generating the way I wanted to, I added a new modifier, this one being the remesh modifier. Then once you add a realize instances node into your geometry nodes, you can see we get this geometry being generated. And if you play around with your geometry, the cube in this example, you can delete it because nobody likes the cube and add in something like an icosphere. Now when you distort the icosphere, you can see you get some real organic pieces of earth forming, which will be what I use to sort of build out my world. And to do this quickly and efficiently, I'll add in a Bezier curve and just repeating that same simple process again, except this time using the curve to points node. What to do is take these two small node groups and combine them with the join geometry You can see, once I realized you had to put realized instances at the end of your nodes, that you get this organic mesh generating along the curve. Awesome for just being able to kind of throw ideas instantly into 3D and have them realized immediately. So after wasting a bunch of time playing around with this, I eventually came up with a shape that I was happy with. Sort of this figure 8 island leading away from the camera. Adding a little bit of geometry close to the camera and far from the camera adds that perspective. And of course this needed a material, and it's not half as scary as the node monster that I have here. Really, it's just made up of a basic rock material and a grass material, being combined with a geometry node, taking the normal value and separating it with a separate X, Y, and Z node, then using a color ramp on the Z axis to create a mask for where I want grass and where I want rock on this mesh. Essentially just using this as a factor to combine these new materials, you can see it gives sort of an organic grass and rock mix on these mountains that again is generated dynamically every time you create a new mesh. Then I needed a way to kind of start incorporating the colors that I have in my palette with this art piece. Mainly I needed to figure out the purple color in the scene. And I also knew that I wanted some sort of jungly fantasy like vines hanging around. So for this I used a little geometry node add-on that is for placing vines. I grabbed this on the Blender Market for $5 and it works essentially the same way my geometry node setup worked, except it's using curves to add these sort of hanging vines, along with some hanging flowers that I could add whatever material I wanted to, and this was going to be how I incorporated the dark purple color into the scene. I adjusted the material then to kind of be an emissive dark purple color, so they kind of glow a little bit in sort of a different otherworldly way. And now it's time for more nature in the scene. And as some of you guys know, just about 6 months ago, I released a tutorial on how I create this 3D nature in Blender. It's really quite an easy workflow and kind of fun. If you guys want to check out the tutorial, it will be up there. I think it's up there. I'm always wrong on this though, but there might be a tutorial up there for you. Dang it, it's probably this corner, isn't it? If you want access to this nature without creating it yourself, I have the Nature Essentials asset pack that works right inside of the free G-Scatter add-on. You can check it out on the Blender Market and get access to all of these different assets. But anew for this, I want to continue with the jungle theme and add some ferns. So using G-Scatter, I scattered these assets that we've created, using a moose grave texture as the distributing factor, and I went about adding a few more of the nature assets that I have there, like the sticks, branches, and wood sorrel. Sticking with the theme, but adding a lot more detail to these pieces of earth. Now we're on to some clouds. Now in the last year or two, Blender got the feature of being able to import VDB volumetrics.
That's great! What is that?
This is awesome because it means you can now use volumetrics created by many different programs out there. There's some free packs available online. I'll give you a download link in the description if you want to check them out. And using a few clever settings that was taught by a Blender artist on YouTube, I'll link to him in the description. But basically changing a few settings inside of Blender gives you way better rendering of these volumetrics. It's a combination of using two volume scatter nodes combined together with different anastrophe levels. So I went about scattering these on my floating fantasy world here in different places to add depth to the scene, as well as sort of isolate certain parts of the mesh, playing around with the scale and rotation until I found a composition that was looking pretty cool. Then I used a dark blue cloud image to add some color to the sky. And last but not least, I added a secondary sun lamp casting some dark purple to the bottom of these islands. Kind of otherworldly, like maybe there's another planet off camera that's emitting this purple light, but I wanted to incorporate that dark purple color from my color palette, and I also thought it just kind of added to the fantasy otherworldly aspect of the scene. And with all these aspects coming together, all we had to do was add that human aspect back into the scene. For this I used some of the 3D scans that I created in this YouTube video of myself and some of my siblings, dropped them into the fantasy world so they're kind of looking off into the distance. Now I needed something for them to actually be looking at. So it was time to create a sci-fi spaceship, and this was the most basic looking model that I've ever modeled in my entire life, but I knew I just wanted to be kind of silhouetted by the sunlight in the scene, so I didn't get hung up on details. I just dropped it in there and then added a volumetric light trail behind it. This is just using a simple volume scatter node on a cylinder, kind of drawing your eye across the scene to that spaceship. And here you can see how we can render this scene in real time on this super portable Asus ROG laptop. And using the built-in NVIDIA Optics AI-powered denoiser in Blender, we can instantly get a clean image of what our finished render will look like. And there's our finished art piece. This is what I came up with working a few hours a day on this project. Of course, I had to render it out as an animation then, just so you can get a little bit of that depth into the scene. Plus, animations are cool, and that's one of the benefits of creating a scene by hand like this, is you have full control over whatever you want to do to it, versus AI, which you might have less control over.
I have unlimited control.
When you say unlimited control, that's just like over your art generation, right? Not like over other things in this world.
Yeah, just over art. What were you thinking?
Oh, nothing. Nothing. We're good. Cool. Let's see what AI can do.
Be prepared to get
Sorry, AI's getting a little competitive here. Let's see who wins this art competition. So I'm gonna use Midjourney, and we actually have Midjourney installed on our CG Geeks Discord server. If you guys want to go to that server, there'll be a link in the description to try out Midjourney yourself and generate some AI art. And here we go. Using Midjourney is super simple. You just go #imagine and then type out what you're imagining. So using what I came up with here as an example, I'm gonna say floating fantasy, 2 people, colors, and then I'll just try to add the same color scheme that I had, I guess. Green and purple. And then we go options, style. We'll say realistic. Okay, here goes my career. Gosh. Why am I stressed about this? This is stressful.
You're stressed cause you know you suck.
Whoa, okay, AI, just don't listen to AI. He's trying to get my head. Oh, wow. Okay, we had nothing to worry about. This looks like crap. What the heck? Let's try again. Maybe I had too much information. Maybe I should pull it back a little bit. It doesn't really seem to know what a floating fantasy island is. Whoa, okay. It's still just doing this sort of weird, which just kind of way off. Okay, now we're talking. I had to put in that it was a landscape because before I was getting these like people and creatures, which are pretty cool, don't get me wrong. But here's some landscapes that they look pretty cool. It's got the right color scheme going and it's working. Ooh, now we got the human aspect going. Okay, so that's pretty cool. They incorporated the colors really nicely. I mean, some of the detail here, like it looks good as a thumbnail once you blow it up. Pretty cool looking. Here it is side by side with what I created. I'm gonna try generating one more. It's all fun and games until I'm unemployed. Ooh, this is, dude, that first one. I kind of want to make that actually in Blender now. That looks pretty cool. That'd be fun to make. Dude, as cool as AI is, I hope it doesn't replace imagination, because if you didn't have to think, that's a problem. The floating island is kind of working. It's got like this part of it that's floating. It's got the colors, it's got the fantasy with the spaceship and stuff. I think I'll let you guys decide what you like better. AI art versus my fantasy world. I do think that mine looks more realistic. It's not really hitting that realistic style with Midjourney. I know there's other AI bots. Let's try Pixar style, because I mean, come on. Pixar's 3D, I do 3D. I like to imagine a world where we can work with AI, get some sort of creative ideas where you're not giving away all the creativity to AI, but sometimes basically taking an idea and then having it flushed out into multiple different looks. You can then kind of decide what you like and go from there. I think AI could work potentially in a good fashion without it getting all up in your face about it and taking over your job. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up and maybe I'll turn it into a series. But that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks again to ROG for sponsoring this video. Check out their new 2024 laptops with the first link in the video description. And I will see you much sooner than last time in a new upcoming video. Bye-bye!
I thought it sucked.